I like where they're trending. And everybody's telling me it's injuries, or it's the Frank Ragnow retirement, or it's Jared Goff. You want to know why Detroit's not as good? They lost Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator. Now he's the coach of the Bears, and the Bears are looking down at the Lions. That's it. It's almost impossible. It's not hard. It's really impossible to replace brilliance. I remember Nike, 2004, Phil Knight steps down as CEO. Nike, one of one, a powerhouse, immediately starts losing market share to Adidas. Here comes Phil. He comes back. We all know the story of Steve Jobs. Left Apple. Apple was a powerhouse. They begged to have him back 10 years later. I mean, it's hard to replace excellent people. I think Ben Johnson's different. I mean, what a shock. Suddenly the Bears are as good as any team in the league running the football. They weren't last year, and suddenly now the Lions are horrible on third down. How with that offensive line? How with Jahmyr Gibbs? With a veteran quarterback? How? They're good at tight end, wide receiver. How? Because they lost Ben Johnson. That's it. I remember when Washington, you remember this, had Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Matt LaFleur in the building with Washington. They were making the playoffs. Those guys left. I mean, it wasn't until last year, for 1 year, that the regression stopped. Now they're bad again. You just can't replace McVay and Shanahan on a staff, arguably the two best coaches in the league after Andy Reid. And I'll die on this hill. The greater the talent you lose, the wider the search has to be. You lose Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, you can't go in-house. You lose Ben Johnson, you can't go in-house. The bigger the shoes I have to fill, the more feet I need to see. And when I watch the Lions, it's not Frank Ragnow. It's not Amon-Ra St. Brown is banged up. It's not Jared Goff doesn't have mobility, didn't have it the previous 3 years. They're just not quite as clever and not quite as unique. Even among really good people. Jerry Jones said, Dak is irreplaceable. Mike is great, but replaceable. And Mike is really good. He leaves. Dallas is now second in the NFL in pressures. It's like, we're actually better without Micah because we got some draft picks and made some deals. So, but I mean, Miami still looking to find the next Marino. How many quarterbacks they had? 40? I mean, literally Denver to replace Elway had to go get an old Peyton Manning. So it's just, it's the Lions lost an all-time offensive coordinator, an all-time guy. And I love Dallas tonight. Nothing quite feels the same.
Yeah. It's a shame because I feel like we're having a lot of just the same conversations about this Detroit Lions team. And the O-line has not been great for the Lions. They have a 55% pass block win rate. To put that in perspective, Joe Burrow last year, who had just the worst O-line in the history of the universe, was at 50%. Now, 5% is a massive difference. Let's be very clear about that. And Jared Goff has been getting rid of the ball. So the pressures, like he's near the bottom of the NFL in pressures. Dropbacks with pressure, 138. He's 17th. Jacoby Brissett, who hasn't even played the full season, has more pressure. So we can't paint the picture that Jared Goff is just like under duress nonstop. It's not Justin Herbert, who's up there with 190, Drake May 182, right? Cam Ward 172, Mahomes 166, and on we go. So we can't just say, oh, well, the O-line's bad, therefore we can't do X, can't do Y. It is interesting. But what it is that Jared Goff is getting rid of the ball lightning quick. Since he's not a mobile quarterback, he is getting rid of that ball as quickly as he can. He's not someone who's going to hold on to the ball, try to buy some time. So his time to throw will always be a lot more accurate than a lot of these other quarterbacks. Because we see some of these other quarterbacks, the more mobile quarterbacks, the Josh Allens, the Lamars, the Jalen's, the Mahomeses, their time to throw is longer because they're constantly trying to extend plays, or they're scrambling around and then they throw the ball away, or whatever they end up doing. That all factors into time to throw. We really need a better stat than time to throw. We need a more advanced analytic that really is just like, no. We want to know, like, when you're actually dropping back, you're calling hike, you're going through your progressions, and then you're throwing the ball, not scrambling, not buying time. That now is officially like a different statistic from my viewpoint. And so, they do know, Goff understands, and this Lions team understands that they got to get the ball out quick. They got to get the ball out quick. He's getting the ball out faster than, Aaron Rodgers right now. And so then that is inhibiting their ability to, get these plays developed right now. And that is where a Ben Johnson can really succeed in helping work around the issues of an imperfect O-line, something that Andy Reid can do, for instance. And it's something that the Philadelphia Eagles likewise are struggling with their own with their own O-line issues. I made a video before talking about the Detroit Lions, the O-line, the coaching, etc. And someone in the comment section said, it's really just all about the bodies. It's all about the offensive line. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, that is definitely a part of it. But that is where coaching comes in. And right now, the Lions have struggled to troubleshoot and problem solve, something that I mentioned, I think, yesterday. And so I don't want to keep rehashing those same takes. And so I'm not going to here. And because Colin has said the same thing as well. They lost Ben Johnson. He's great. That's the difference. That's the issue. But what's so interesting to me is, and I've said this now, for weeks, months now, that the Eagles and the Lions are very similar. And what's interesting to me is that Colin is very adamant they lost Ben Johnson. That's why they're not as good, right? He's so adamant about that. And with the Eagles, he's more about like, there's problems with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. And, he actually blames the roster more than he does for the Detroit Lions roster, and blames more the losing of Ben Johnson. And it's just it's such a toss-up in this moment, where there's certain moments in a season, there's certain moments in a game when coaching is everything and coaching is nothing. Sometimes it really is. I just think of it like the Thanos, like when he was like first introduced at the end of one movie. I don't remember what movie it was, but he's like, fine, I'll do it myself, or whatever. He's like on the moon or something. I don't even know. But like, that's what it makes me think of. And that's what I kept waiting for the Eagles to do, where they're just like, fine, I'll do it myself. And then the players elevate. It's just, we got it. But football is just, that's easier to do when you're going up against lesser talent and lesser coaches. But when you're going up against the best, when you're going up against a great roster or a greatly coached team, like that's not enough. That's not enough. And so that's why you can get away with it against lesser teams. But when you're going up against top teams, you can't just outdo them. It's just time for kids to take over, for Jared Goff to unleash, Amon-Ra St. Brown to get after it. Like, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. Again, when you're playing a lower team, absolutely. When you're playing a higher level team with just higher quality of talent / coaching, it's just not a matter of just will and bodies. I think the Eagles roster was significantly better than what the Los Angeles Rams had last year. And yet in the playoffs, came down to the final couple plays. And it did take Jalen Carter to just be in the lap of Matthew Stafford to be like, what's up? Goodbye. You're going home. Right? And that was at that moment of just like, Jalen Carter better than that O-line and being like, I am getting after you right now. Like, I am turning into an absolute beast and a monster in that moment. But they were in that game and even in that spot, largely because of Sean McVay's coaching and the defensive coaching as well, to be fair. And so, without that, if you take away a Sean McVay and you add in, I don't know, whoever the Titans have had coaching for the last, whoever for the last X amount of years, and their interim coaches, and it's like, go put them in LA, and they're not there. They're not there. They're not even beating the Minnesota Vikings. So I just think like that's the hard spot that the Detroit Lions are in right now. And Colin keeps saying, your search has to go far and wide and can't hide within and whatnot. And people are like saying, well, do you see how Ben Johnson was hired for the Detroit Lions? That when you look at him, he was an offensive quality control coach, a tight ends coach, passing game coordinator, and then offensive coordinator, right? So that's hiring someone within, and then that man is obviously became the Ben Johnson. But here's the difference. John Moran had a lot of experience doing a bunch of other stuff here. Was with the Jets, the Raiders. He was with the Detroit Lions, then left, went to Denver, then left, then came back to Detroit. This has not been a guy that had been in the building for years. And when you promoted Ben Johnson, the Detroit Lions were in a very different spot. They were not established by any stretch of the imagination. And so when you have this established team and you have this standard now, you need to find more sure things at that point. Just like the Eagles needed to do, and they didn't do it, and they're suffering the consequences. You have two teams that are suffering the consequences now because of it. And it's just not a surprise. It's not. Now, can they overcome this going up against the Dallas Cowboys tonight? I mean, like, this is where you're really going to find out how much of the Detroit Lions is left. Because they're definitely banged up at this time. At the time of me making this video, I still don't know if Amon-Ra St. Brown is playing or not. But this team very much always had a lot of solutions to the problems that they could face throughout the course of a season. And right now, they're looking for them. And the best solution that they had was Dan Campbell's like, I'm going to start calling the plays. And again, when your head coach in the middle of the season is starting to call plays, like that's not a great sign. That means something is wrong. That means something is not going according to plan, because that was not the original plan. So, and it's not something that Dan Campbell had done over these last, few years or so. And so it's just a really tricky situation. And this game right now means everything. This game absolutely positively means everything. And I know they're not perfectly healthy. I know there's some issues with the line. I know there's some issues with the defense. I know there's some issues with, again, is Amon-Ra St. Brown playing or not, etc. But over these last few years, you still would be able to say, I got the Lions in this game. At home, still got, and you could go down the list of all the bodies that you got. You're like, I got the Lions here. They are not losing this game. They are on attack mode right now. Like, they are going to get after it. And you can't say that with the same degree of confidence that you have been able to say years past. If they can come out and win big and control this game, then it's just like you could totally regain the confidence of like, all right, this is just a bizarre year. The Lions continue to also step forward in the conversation of like, this is a wild year. Everyone is playing amazing games and everyone's playing some bizarrely awful, weird, mixed bag games. We don't know how this is all going to end out when it's the playoffs, when it's win or go home. But like, the Lions are not slipping. They're not falling. They're not in a free fall. It's been an uneven season for every single team in the NFL right now. And, the same thing with the Eagles, right? Like the Eagles are trying to stake that claim as well. It just so happens that the Lions have a tougher competitor to go up against but they're at home, and it's happening right now on Thursday night. So this game right now sends the message to the locker room. The message. They lose this game, it really does feel like it's just pretty much over. Like it's just, Dan Campbell's still going to get these guys going, but he's going to have to work overtime to get everyone to like really continue to believe. You win this game, you beat the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to feel awesome. You're going to be able to really build off that, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone's going to feel great. And so, you lose, and you lose convincingly. You lose 30-17, or whatever the heck the score was from between Kansas City and Detroit, and it's just like, the conversation will be the Lions are circling the drain. Season's over. Super Bowl window closed. Done. Where do they go from here? You'll start to have like really interesting conversations. Time to move on from Jared Goff. Should they trade so and so? Like it'll just. Time to cut this thing down and rebuild, and that's what it'll be like. That's what those conversations turn into, and it happens fast. 1 minute you're the number one Super Bowl contender. The next minute they're telling you to fire the coach and trade the quarterback. That's just how it works, man. And I know Detroit Lions fans haven't been part of that conversation in a really long time, and now you feel like, hey, like Goff said, hey, things are different now. We're here now. We're a top team. We're a contender. And it's like, well, then those are the conversations that happen, man. That's how this thing happens. And if you have a season, if it unfolds not in the direction that was anticipated for them to be a top contender, it's just like someone has to answer that, and they look for answers, and it can't be just like, hey, we're running it back next year. It's just like that's not good enough. That was not good enough for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2023. So they slashed and burned. They got rid of the coaching staff. They went out and made a play for Saquon. They went out and drafted 2 defensive players. They then went out in free agency and also got other, huge defensive players. They made a massive defensive hire, like the most expensive defensive coordinator, one of the most defensive coordinators in Fangio, right? They went out and got an established, successful play caller in Kellen. Like they took big swings. Big swings, and it paid off, and they won the Super Bowl. And then this year they didn't take those big swings because they were kind of handcuffed a little bit because of losing pieces and winning the Super Bowl. So that you always get poached in that way. They lost their coordinator, et cetera. They weren't aggressive enough of trying to figure out what do we need from a coaching perspective, and now they're in the trouble that they're in. And I can guarantee you, if they don't win the Super Bowl, if they don't get to the Super Bowl, if they miss the playoffs or get knocked out of the playoffs in the first round, and it doesn't ever really feel like they ever really righted this ship, heads are going to roll. There will be devastating. And this is the team that just won the Super Bowl. This is the team that literally just won the Super Bowl. Sirianni would be on the hot seat. Like, it's just how it works. Just how it works. Whether it's fair or foul, it's just how it goes. Just how it goes. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions taking on the Dallas Cowboys tonight? Who do you think has the edge in this game? Why do you think it's more coaching, more offensive line / injuries just in general to this team? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.